Pretending I'm Superman is a sports and gaming documentary recounting the story behind the then unlikely pop culture phenomenon of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater video game franchise, framed around skateboard culture's one-time inability to attain mainstream footing long-term and acceptance as a legitimate sport, and positing that the surprising mega success of the original game is a watershed moment that helped turn the tide in its release, not coincidentally timed to the pending revival of the series in the next generation of game consoles. Opening with a beginner's history inside view of skating's ramshackle origins, though one centered more on the world of skate culture than the on-the-ground athletics, a bullet points of the rise and fall of 70s skate parks, the importance of Thrasher magazine, Stacey Peralta's underground skate videos, and the trick video sharing culture, up through and including the rise of youth-oriented skateboard marketing trends in the X Games, a surprisingly coherent but nonetheless guess-you-had-to-be-there account of the cultural circumstances necessary to generate the persona of Tony Hawk, i.e. the skater, with the necessary mix of having actual talent and a persona balanced somehow perfectly between Gen X slacker disaffection and non-threatening wholesome marketability to help stop the cycle of skateboarding becoming briefly popular and then dropping off the map yet again, leading up to his signing on to license his likeness to upstart game developers Neversoft as the sport's actual magic signs with Nike moment that elevates Hawk and the sport to the top of the world when the game unexpectedly explodes in popularity. So now this is the part of the review where I'm supposed to say something like, now you wouldn't think that the making, marketing, and lasting legacy of a sports video game franchise that more or less ran its respectable course without major negative incident and was framed around one of the least controversial, most agreeably regular dude personalities in the pantheon of celebrity athletics was something you could make a compelling, riveting documentary out of, and then hit you with a swerve where this is actually challenging, bigger than life, can't believe it's a true story told in an exciting style and dynamic fashion that'll change the way you see the sport. Except I really can't, because yeah, it kind of turns out that some things are harder to make fascinating than others, and this is one of them. The heart is definitely in the right place here, whether or not all or most of this is just intended to hype up the comeback of the brand, the nostalgia of the filmmakers for the breakout era of the Tony Hawk games, and the nostalgia of Hawk himself and the other interview subjects. Largely a who's who that would show up and sit for the cameras of skaters who appeared in the games, original dev team members, aging skate culture OGs, and gaming historians is palpable. But what eventually starts to sink in is that we had an idea to expand this already successful marketing brand into another well-proven merchandising space, and we did, and everyone made some money on the deal, isn't exactly the most exciting story on the planet. Not that there isn't anything interesting to be gleaned. The behind-the-scenes game development business, while they're held to surface level since this is a mainstream doc, is fun to see, and it's compelling to note how involved Hawk gets in the original games, pushing for them to balance being easy to play and intuitively understanding that letting people get to the fun part of skating first and feel like they know how to do it right away and then want to pull off the tricky stuff is the key to making this sell. You know, that's all very interesting, and it certainly reaffirms why Hawk was the guy that skating and Neversoft looked to as the figurehead in that moment. He certainly comes off as a natural-born, affable protagonist of reality type, particularly in the instances where he's interacting with the fans or offering an injured fellow skater a role in the next game that'll boost his profile while he's recuperating. On the other hand, where it ends up lacking is that we speed too quickly through the immediate aftermath of how the game rapidly elevates the profile of the various pieces of skate culture that became arbitrarily associated with the game, which kind of feels like the most original part. The stories of individual veteran skaters suddenly being treated like celebrities, events and parks being overrun with new fans, once small bands seeing their songs chart and gigs sell out because Hawk and the other athletes had decided to put them on the game soundtrack. These are the kind of like cultural snapshot stuff that's simply more interesting than a lot of the other material here, even if once again there really isn't a lot of drama to be mined ultimately. Paradoxically, it feels like an attempt to fit in a small amount of everything, including the obligatory aside to old school arcade skating games and the mandatory Twin Galaxy visit. You know, kind of makes this feel smaller, whereas a narrower focus might have allowed for more depth. Or maybe there really is just so much that can be mined from the story of that time Tony Hawk negotiated yet another successful Tony Hawk endorsement. It's certainly not a bad doc, and fans will probably find more vital things in it than others, so call it a 5 out of 10, but certainly erring on the decent side.